Welcome to Artistic Adventures. Today we're continuing our doll diorama project with part two. We're going to make windows, curtains, a framed picture, some curtain rods, and hooks for the rods to decorate our little room. Also, there's going to be a historical tidbit or two here for you. All right, let's get started. First of all, make sure you save the panels you cut off of that cardboard box because you can use them for some of these elements like these windows. I just cut these out and I did put some glue on them. That's why they're a little bit shiny. Also, this is the bottom of just a small box, cardboard box that something like jewelry might come in. I use them to ship some of my products from my Etsy shop. And I'm going to use this for the frame of a picture that I'm going to put in the little room. So first of all, you're going to cut off however deep you want your frame to be. And then I'm going to outline where I want to cut out the front of this frame. Now this will give you the illusion of a thicker frame without having to use wood or some other heavy product. So this we're going to just cut out and paint and try to make it look like a gilded picture frame. So this was a little bit difficult for me holding this and cutting, as you can see my awkward hand position, but we finally got it cut and I trimmed off the uneven places, and all I can say is one more week and I get this thing off of my hand. Yay. So after we got this all trimmed up and evened up on all the different sides and level on the back, then I'm going to paint it with some gold paint. Well, but first I'm going to attach some decorative pieces. I have these odds and ends around that I always try to make use of. These are just some odd bronze findings that I had from jewelry making days. As you can see, there we go. They have loops on the ends where you could use them on a necklace or earrings or whatever. And so I just keep things like this around. And then when I have an idea to make something, I have them on hand and I just make use of them instead of, getting rid of them. So I'm just putting a little glue on the corners and angling these decorative pieces. And after that dries, I'm going to come back and put some nice glossy gold paint, shiny gold paint on it because I want it to look like a gilded picture frame. And I'm even painting the brass findings because I want this to look like part of the frame as if it was molded onto it. And if you have other items that you would like to use, you don't have to use something like this. Or you could just make a plain frame and paint it. You don't have to put it on. But I was trying to make it look somewhat decorative since we're putting it in a room that's has a look of a formal dining room or living room with all that fancy wallpaper and chair railing. So I make sure I get all the areas covered on this, even the inside of the edge, because that will show a little bit after we put the picture in it. So we're going to set that aside to dry for a while, and now we're going to paint that cardboard. And the color that I'm using is not that much different from the color of the cardboard, but it's going to help us to even out the texture. And also, when you cut cardboard, it has those little holes in the sides. So I'm using some of the paint to help fill in those holes so it looks like it's solid instead of being cardboard. And I'm doing this on the smallest window on the video, and then after I turn this video off for this section, I'm going to do the bigger window so we don't take up too much time with all this painting and detail work. I'm not painting the back of this window, I'm just painting the front because the back will actually just be against the wall and no one will ever see it. And we're also actually going to glue something to it, so I didn't want to put paint on it. Some of the paint may get on the back, but it doesn't matter. I'm just making sure that the front looks good. So there's the little window. I'm going to, as I said, go off camera and do the big window. So now I took some pictures off of the internet, and this particular picture I'm going to use in the picture frame. And I have a story to tell. It's a historical tidbit. This is the picture of the daughter of Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun, who was a famous painter. This is a self-portrait that she did of herself, and she painted back during the time of the French Revolution. In fact, you may have seen some of her famous picture portraits of Marie Antoinette. These are probably some that you may have seen in other venues. Now, there's an interesting story about this because I wrote this book called Beyond Everlasting about 10 years ago, and I ended up using her daughter as the main character. And I'll tell you some sort of eerie things that happened uh, because of all this is that I started looking at her characters after I had written the book, and I ended up deciding to make the story sort of a fictional account of her daughter's life, death, and also a little bit about Vigée Lebrun. And as I started looking at my characters and looking for pa- uh, portraits that she had painted, it was so odd that some of the characters that I had named a certain name had the same name as some of her the portraits that she painted. And so a couple of these that I'm showing you are actually end up being the basis for characters in my book. And it's all fictional, but it is. I did a lot of research about Vigée Lebrun and her daughter, so a lot of it is factual, but made into a fictional story. So just wanted to throw that in. It was an interesting thing, and also that Vigée Lebrun was a very famous painter for her time as a woman, because there weren't a lot of women, and she wasn't accepted in a lot of the artistic circles, but she ended up being a very prolific painter and painted lots of nobility. When they had the French Revolution, she escaped and went to various uh, different countries to escape all the turmoil there, even so far as to Russia, where she painted some of the nobility there. So, an interesting character, and if you get a chance to look her up and look at her history, um, you might find that historical tidbit interesting. And that's why I chose her daughter to be in the picture for my little diorama. That means something really special to me. So now I'm going to cut out these pictures of the outside, the outdoors. I just pulled these off the internet. I just wanted some things that looked far away in the distance so they would look appropriate if you were looking out the window. And now for the framed picture, I'm putting some glue on that inner bottom part, and then I'm placing this in here. I made these pictures the correct size by using a photo editing program. So there's our picture of Julie Lebrun, who was Vigée Lebrun's daughter. And now we're going to glue these other pictures to the inside of our windows. And we're doing this on the unpainted side, of course. And there you turn it over and you've got a nice view out a window of a little path in a garden. And then we'll do the same thing to the bigger window, put some glue around that and place our photo on it. And we'll have a nice big picture window view of a really pretty lake and garden scene. Ta-da! All right, so we're going to set those aside to dry. And next I'm going to be painting these little wooden dowels so that I can use those as curtain rods. And this is sort of a bronze metallic paint that I'm using. One rod for the small window and a bigger rod for the bigger window. And then we're going to put those aside and let those dry. Everything has to be propped up so it doesn't stick to the paper. Okay, now I had to come up with a way that I'll be able to attach the curtain rods to the wall in a way that will allow the curtains to stick out a little bit from the wall. So I decided to make some little hooks, and I made use of this pink foam board material that I had, the same thing that I used for the wainscoting or the chair rail and the footboard of my room. So I'm trying to make use of all these things so that if you wanted to do it, you can kind of see you can make use of a lot of these materials and not waste anything, and it'll save you some money. So right now I'm just cutting little J shapes out. Those are going to be the hooks where my curtain rods will rest. And then after I get those cut, we're going to attach them to a base that I'll be able to glue directly to the wall, and then the curtain rod will sit right in it. So this took me some time to figure out how I was going to do this because I didn't want anything too heavy. And this foam board is perfect for that. It's very, very light and easily cut out and also paintable because I want to paint it the same bronze color as the curtain rods. So now that I have all my little bases and my little J-shape hooks, I'm going to get out my handy dandy glue gun again and put a little bit of glue down near the bottom of the base, a little dab, and then I'm going to stick one of these hooks to that, and you can see that it sticks up, and that's what we're going to glue to the wall to hold our curtain rod. I'm going to just do the same thing to all 4 pieces, 2 for each window, and after I let those dry, then I'm going to be able to paint them the same bronze color as my curtain rods, and then everything will match, the hardware as well as the curtain rod. So just getting out that same bronze paint, and it works really good. I don't even have to put a second coat. Just making sure that I get all the different edges covered, and I had to make use of the dowel to hold this down. Still having a little trouble manipulating things without use of my thumb. I'll tell you, this surgery has really made me appreciate my opposable thumb, I can tell you. There are some things that you simply cannot do without your thumb. All right, so now we've just about got all these done. And once we do, we'll set those aside and let them dry and work on curtains. Because I do want to have some nice little curtains for our windows. I'll help cover up any imperfections in my windows. So I'm using a sheer material that doesn't ravel. So I'm not going to hem the bottom of it. I am going to leave a little at the bottom so the curtain doesn't come right at the end of the window. And I am having to extend the top because I want to fold over the top and sew a little pocket to put the curtain rod through. And I'm doing the same thing for the bigger window, cutting out a piece for that, and then I am cutting it in 2 pieces because we'll have 2 drapes on either side of the window for each window. And then after I get those cut, you can see I'm going to make a little pocket, and that'll make it possible for us to string our curtains onto it. So I'm just using some needle and thread, turning this over, and putting a loose back and forth stitch to make a hem so that we can make a pocket for our curtain rod. And get to the end and tying off a knot. And I'm going to go off camera and do the rest of those. But before that, I want to show you, I have these little, I think they're actually large crimp beads that I bought. I'm not really sure, but I saw them and I'm like, I know I'll be able to use those for something. And lo and behold, they make great ends for my curtain rods. So what I'm going to do is just glue those on. I'm going to glue one on each end right now. I don't want to glue the other one just in case for some reason I don't make the pocket big enough for it to go through. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you never know. I'll put the other end on later. All right, so I've sewed all my curtains, and I'm going to go ahead and put both drapes on, and then do the same thing for the smaller window. And now I'm going to go ahead, as I said, and put the other end onto the curtain rod. So we've got the curtain rod with 2 sort of ball-shaped ends on the rod. And that's the end of the curtain, and that's the end of this video. So we've got a picture, a framed picture, 2 windows, 2 curtains and curtain rods, and the hardware to hold the curtain rods to the window, to the wall. So next video, so exciting, we're going to put all this together with some furniture and even pose our dolls. So that's going to be fun. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Thanks, and bye.